a free energy device that's been hidden from the public since the 1970s. There's actually quite a few of these free energy machines going around, right back to Tesla, but are any of them real? This device is allegedly made using the debris recovered from the now famous OG Roswell UFO crash site in 1947. One of the first ever widely publicized UFO crashes in history near Roswell, New Mexico, and the government was quick to get involved. The military's initial official public statement was, yes, we recovered a flying saucer, and this was the government admitting it in 1947. Then the next day, they were just like, oh snap, never mind, it was just a weather balloon accident, which they stood by for decades. Despite dozens of eyewitness accounts of the crash site insisting that the material recovered from the debris had some otherworldly properties. Since we had no internet back then, people just kind of forgot about it for 30 years. But in 1978, ufologist Stanton Friedman dug up this incident and brought it back to public light. And the Roswell incident started to pick up steam, getting featured in books, TV shows, and people began to question it again. So to shut everyone up, the Pentagon ran an official investigation on the situation in 1994 and concluded it was now a high-tech balloon recovered from classified military project called Mogul. Your classic, the government investigated itself and found nothing wrong situation. We later found out that almost everyone who encountered the debris back in 1947 was contacted by the government, who told them to keep their mouths shut. Even radio stations like KGFL admitted decades later that the US military called them back then and specifically told them not to report on the Roswell situation, clearly trying to hide something. But the real deal here is everyone had the exact same thing to say about the metal scraps from the crash site. Countless reports claimed the debris was a very thin tinfoil-like material that was bendable but would snap back into place with no creases when you let go of it. You also couldn't burn it, cut it, tear it, or puncture it despite it being as thin as tinfoil. It got to be known as memory metal that remembers its original shape, an alien technology material familiar among several UFO crash sites. Because it wasn't just in Roswell. The Virginia, Brazil UFO crash site in 1996 had people saying the exact same thing about the debris. A seemingly indestructible metallic-like foil that you could crumple up and it would just pop back out in pristine condition. Turns out this metal is real. Like, it actually exists, revealed to the public in 1959, just shortly after Roswell by the Naval Ordnance Laboratory as nitinol, a nickel and titanium alloy that remembers its original atomic shape and snaps back into it when heated up, known as an SMA, a shape memory alloy. Memory metal. Sound familiar? How convenient that it was invented just a decade after Roswell. Nitinol was, and still kind of is, a revolutionary metal used by NASA in their Mars rovers, surgical devices, and even eyeglasses. But there are even earlier, lesser known reports of this metal that have gone under the radar. Like in this unclassified document from 1949, just 2 years after Roswell, written by the Battelle Memorial Institute, a technology development company, to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, which is largely believed where the Roswell crash was studied. That outlines in the months immediately following the Roswell crash, the Air Force contracted Battelle to work on titanium alloys with novel properties. Just another coincidence, showing that Battelle may have been the defense contractor hired for reverse engineering this UFO material. Now, to be fair, nitinol is nowhere near as pliable and flexible as this UFO material claims to be, and it does require heat to shapeshift. But nitinol could have easily just been the commercially available version that they were able to reverse engineer from the original material. And it lines up quite well with the recent UFO sightings in the last few years, many of which report and even show the UAPs themselves morphing and changing their shapes mid-flight, which kinda looks like memory metal. UFO behavior descriptions that were deemed absolute nonsense in the 40s that turned out to be plausible at the very least almost 70 years later. Where have I heard that before? Oh yes, Bob Lazar. Remember this guy who told the world in the 90s the government's working on alien spacecraft and was called crazy for it? Then a few decades later, the Pentagon fully admits, yes, we've encountered UAPs in our skies. And this Freedom of Information Act request by Anthony Bragalia to the Defense Intelligence Agency revealed that the government is indeed testing on UFO debris. The declassified 154-page DIA document shows, in addition to remembering their original shape when bent or crushed, the retrieved debris possessed extraordinary capabilities, including the potential to make things invisible or slow down the speed of light. All in this report. Bob also said that he worked on an antimatter reactor that could generate its own gravitational force for a propulsion-less aircraft engine that could move outside the realm of our known physics. Labeled a nutcase lying through his teeth looking for attention in the 90s. And now the UAP reports of the last few years all stated these exact behaviors of craft movement. Erratic patterns that seem to defy physics and engines with no visible propulsion. As well, he stated that an element 115, one not found on Earth, was the main source of fuel behind these reactors, a laughable suggestion. In 2003, element 115 was synthesized and officially added to the periodic table as moscovium. Although we haven't been able to stabilize it yet, this is clearly progress. He also suggested that the government is likely experimenting on extraterrestrial alien bodies, an absolute crackpot, right? In 2023, David Grosh admits to it in his famous Non-Human Biology biologics quote, and the Mexican government literally reveals full-ass alien bodies to the world. You see, almost every claim made about UFOs from the 50s all the way to the 2000s was deemed at the time sheer insanity peddled by nut jobs. Decades go by, governments admit the truth, and everyone just kind of goes, oh, no way, I guess it's true, and the hype dies out. People lose interest until something new comes out, like those free energy machines I talked about earlier. Sometime in the 70s, after nitinol, the miraculous memory metal, was invented, this TV spot came out that featured perpetual motion engines which converted nitinol into energy without any fuel spent. Listen to what this guy had to say.
Nitinol engines as a real potential for the future. Since the energy to run the engines is in effect free, as it's waste heat.
The atomic memory properties of nitinol is used together with hot water and cooling to continually expand and contract the metal to create motions like these, which are then converted into energy. The problem is you need a source of heat to heat the nitinol up and perpetuate this motion, and heat ain't free. Well, we do have natural hot springs, as well as geothermal sources, meaning deep within the earth where all the lava is that could support that. But even then, you need to actually build the power stations that generate this nitinol energy, as well as distribute and maintain them, which all cost money. Sure, the stations may pay themselves off after 2 years or however long and operate free after that, but that's no different than any other renewable energy source like solar, wind, these cool wave buoys. Not exactly free energy unless I'm missing something here. But remember that nitinol is just a commercially available tip, and I think you all know how I feel about just the tip. The original shape-shifting alien memory metal is likely still being studied or maybe even successfully recreated in ultra-classified government projects, because the videos of those UAPs are clearly doing some shit way crazier than what nitinol can do. Maybe this real UFO memory metal does have properties that are so advanced that free energy devices like these would be fully possible. And governments, the global elites, are afraid of releasing it into our society as they're multi-trillion-dollar enterprises, and to be fair, the economy itself would likely crumble. So they have no choice but to keep it hidden. Remember guys, before anyone starts crying about misinformation, these are all just theories. I spitball interesting ideas and try to activate new parts of your brain. So if you can't handle them, why'd you even get this far into the video? How about those other free energy sources going around, like these Congo rocks, terrestrial ground energy, or Tesla's famous Wardenclyffe Tower that pulled atmospheric energy from the sky similar to that of the alleged Tartarian Empire? What if those were actually real and suppressed from the public? Because we might have to look into those next.